number 2, somebody feel free to bring something up from their own life. What are some of the ways you struggle with contentment in your own life? Anybody ever bought that car they couldn't afford? Anybody bought a house later on, you figured the payments were a little more expensive than you thought they would be and regretted it? I think Robert brought something up where he talked about, as parents, we always want our kids to have it a little bit better than we do, right? Is that showing contentment, or is that teaching you to be not to be content?
It's teaching you not to be content with what you were brought up with. It's teaching you to be always looking just to achieve or just to acquire just a little bit more.
Yes, Nancy.
When I was young married couple, we used our credit cards too much. We got into a lot of trouble. We had to get a second mortgage, and I've learned since then to live by myself now, but I learned because of that, because I was literally working just to pay bills, not, you know what I mean? Like it says in Proverbs. So I guess we weren't content, or we weren't very good money managers at that time.
Right. Well, I think saying, yeah, you're not good money managers, but it was because of contentment, not being content that you got there, right?
Yeah. I guess we were trying to keep up with the Joneses. I had a new car, a new house. We didn't need that.
Right.
I realize that now, but I didn't know it then.
Just kidding.
I think expectations for ourselves and for ourselves. You know, when we're young, we just can picture everything is going to just be rosy-dozy, and you know, that job is just going to continue advancing and all that. And so when we find out reality sometimes is not equal to our expectations, that's when I think we mature more. We learn to just be happy with what we are blessed with.
And I think key word there, maturing, right? Maturing brings about contentment.
You know, it's good that we're talking about this. It's good that we see, but I think we've been groomed. We've been groomed from early on to do better, have more, act better, live better, those types of things. Now, I'm not saying that there's not any value in that, but we have to learn that if we don't use what God has given us in a way that pleases Him, we'll never be satisfied. Things will never satisfy us. We have to learn that things won't. Case in point, I was without my car I just got it back today. It was in an accident, and I was in a parking lot sitting. Lamont and I were having brunch, I guess, at the time, and a man walked in and says, "Well, who owns a, Passat VW?" I said, "I do." He said, "Well, I'm sorry, I scratched your car. You want to come take a look at it?" So I went out and took a look at it. Sure enough, I thought it was about $2,000 worth of damage to the car, because you know how the new cars are, fairly new, last 2015. But anyway, I was without that car for six or 7 days, and I was driving a Toyota Corolla.
A piece of garbage. You can have VW.
Driving a Toyota Corolla. Here's the thing: Toyotas, I've owned Toyotas. I've had Camrys. Corollas is a small version, and they're hard. I mean, their suspension is different than a larger, more quote-unquote luxurious vehicle. Okay, so I really wanted my car back. I really did. And I said, "Oh, this little car, you can scoot around, you can get through traffic. I got to work at the same amount of time." And I actually thought about calling my own insurance company, because the insurance company that took the car, that decided to pay for my car, was this other man's insurance company. And I said, "Well, what kind of car am I getting as a rental?" And he said, "The Corolla." I said, "Oh." I said, "That's it." Yeah. See what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? I said, "Well, I want something the same kind of car, and I had even thought about calling my insurance company, because he told me, when I first informed him about this accident, this is other insurance company was gonna, because I wanted to make sure everybody knew, everybody was gonna be on board with what was going on. He said, call me if you have some difficulty. And I was gonna call him, because I was having some difficulties. And I said, Robert, what is wrong with you? You know, this guy didn't have to come in the first place to tell you that he scratched your car. But now you want his insurance to pay more to get a more comparable car that's going to be in the shop, rather than you being satisfied with the Toyota Corolla that bounces down the road, you know, and it didn't bounce, but you could feel the road noise. You could just feel almost everything. Anyway, getting to the point. It's just a simple thing like that. And I had to calm my, you know, it's not that I got over it. I said, just stop it, Robert. Just accept what you got and just keep on going. But I am glad I got my car back. And I'm more content with my car than I ever was before. Because I was thinking, Robert, if you ever bought another car, what car would you like?
Toyota Corolla.
No. I was going to go for an Audi or a BMW or something like that. A step further up. And I just said, would you stop it? I was so glad to get my car back. I said, would you stop thinking about what you might get down the road? You're planning on not having a job.
I just want a truck with air conditioning.
Yeah.
Robert, you're over here talking about an Audi.
But anyway, you know, we have to learn to just be more accepting of what it is and what's most important in our life.
All right.
That was most important because it was important for us young couples that have that car. But my dad's a used car salesman, so we could have any car.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I could have had your car.
Good. Now to talk about your used car salesman father, let's get into fair dealing. Let's get into point number 2, the fair dealing principle that Andy tells Barney about when he's trying to sell his bicycle. He's not telling him everything about it. There's different rules for different situations, he said. He said there's bikes and houses are houses, right? So question number 3, to Andy, Opie's bicycle deal was a simple matter of honesty. However, the situation became a little more complex when considering the sale of his house. Why did Andy have a hard time explaining the difference between bikes and houses?
Because there wasn't.
Because
There's not a difference, right?
Well, because houses are so much more expensive and there's more things going on. So this little thing that he was talking about the bike, that's different than the big thing when we're talking about houses. When we're talking about a lot of money, you don't have to just tell everybody what's going on. You can just let them find out for yourself.
Right. Right.
Yeah, right.
But we all know there's no difference between bikes and houses.
But that's why he had such a difficulty.
Right. Because money, right? That's a big difference. The amount of money is what he was
And he
thinking
was
about.
afraid to tell him, hey, the biggest difference is money.
Right.
So be quiet, son.
And then we got part B there, from bad to worse. I was just talking about in the verse that goes with that. While evil people and imposters go on from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. It's a slippery slope, right? When you start lying about one thing. If somebody's willing to lie about a bicycle, they're definitely willing to lie about a house. Anybody ever bought or sold a used car and not told somebody everything that was wrong with it? Sounds like Robert's going to tell them everything that's wrong with it.
I don't know what, now, yeah, but before, like Andy explained, well, so-and-so bought the house and he didn't know from the previous owner all these other things. He had to find out himself. So Andy found out himself about what was wrong with his house.
Right.
And, it's all this game that we play.
Right. Talking about doing the right thing, being Christ-like,
Yeah.
do what's honorable. But has anybody ever, in question number 4, if you're reading along, is there a time in your life when someone or perhaps you did not use a fair dealing principle when dealing with somebody? Anybody ever sold a car like I was talking about? I recently sold my Jeep Cherokee that I've had since 2005. It was a very emotional time for me. If you talk to my wife about it, I may have been stalling on selling it. I may have gone out and made everybody take family pictures with it a couple times. The guy that sold, I may have cried when I sold it a little bit. I may have just teared up. But I went through it and I told that guy everything that was wrong with it because that was like my baby. And even after I already sold it, I was texting him, oh yeah, I forgot about this thing. But I really liked that Jeep, so I really wanted to make sure he knew everything he was getting into.
Right.
And I was selling it for a ridiculous price for right now. If I'd sold it 3 years ago, I probably would have got half the price for it. But I can definitely say that there were probably times in the past when I sold some cars that I may have left a few things out. Nothing big, I mean, but you can't remember all the things wrong with some of my cars, so it gets kind of backed up. But any one of y'all ever bought a house from somebody didn't tell you everything about it? Bought a car from somebody didn't tell you? That seems to happen to me all the time. They're like, if you didn't ask, like Howie and Opie were arguing about. Opie said he didn't ask. Why should I tell him? There's been cars I bought that I forgot to ask if the air conditioner worked. I forgot to ask if the CD player worked. I forgot to ask quite a few things that I apparently should have asked, because there seems to be a lot of people in this world that unless you ask about every little thing, they're going to conveniently avoid telling you about. But I think that's one reason why at this point, when we sell a house, we have to pay an inspector to look over it, right? And you're the one that wants to hire that inspector when you buy the house, because if the person selling the house is paying for it, they may not tell you everything. That's pretty sad, really, in reality, that we have to pay somebody to tell us what's wrong, instead of just the owner who's probably pretty sure they already know what everything's wrong.
Well, the owner's might, but the houses are so.
Oh, there are things they find. They're
so different
complex.
now. You have to have an inspector to know what to look
Yeah.
at.
Nobody ever got messed over when buying a used car? Al, I know you're younger. Did you get like a Model T that some stuff was wrong with it?
Right. Never had a bad deal, but always got a good one.
Really?
What about a carriage?
I've bought a car from a used car lot, driven it off, and everything that could go wrong went wrong with it.
Wow.
And it was just the next day, and I drove it around, took my dad in it, drove it around. All of a sudden, once I signed on the dotted line, I think I was only 20 at the time, then everything went out on, I mean, everything. And I went back to the dealer, I said, hey, what's up with this? And the response was, well, you bought it,
Yeah.
And so my response was,
I'll never deal with you again.
it's like, well, you got two choices. The lesser of the evils, you're gonna take this car back, and he took it back.
Oh, boy.
Oh, good.
And, but yeah, I couldn't believe that, everything, and since then, I've bought all our vehicles from the same person over the past 17 years.
Are you still driving over to California to buy your next car?
I will, as long as he's there, yeah. Well, I take it back, I got Trinity's car here.
Oh.
Had I got it back there, that probably would have been better. But, because, you go to who you can trust.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
I have a
Is there a Model T
Jim.
story?
You what?
No, nothing.
Hey, see, you
No,
would have
Jim,
done
but
better
it's a
with
good one.
Jim.
It's a good one. It's the opposite. I mean, it is about doing the right thing even when it hurts. Jim was a realtor and he was representing the seller. It was being shown by different realtors, and a couple was interested in it, and Jim explained to the buying realtor that there was a problem, okay? And the buying realtor called him and said, you know what, my people really want that house. If you just won't say anything about it, do not disclose it because it may not even show up on an inspection or whatever. And they will buy it. And Jim goes, nope, we're not playing that game. We're going to tell everything we know, and if it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And you know what? he disclosed it, or he made that other realtor disclose it to the buying couple, and it went, you know? So that just shows, do the right thing no matter what.
Yep.
And hopefully that other realtor learns something
I
from
hope
it.
there's
The
some
honesty
dishonest
involved.
realtors. Mhm.
You can't, there's nothing is comparable, nothing can beat honesty.
Right.
So you're saying Jim could teach Barney a few things
Oh, yeah.
about integrity? Because Barney was ready to get it sold. The part you missed at the end was Barney going off all crazy because he didn't make his $3,250.
What about? Yeah, I know it's 3,000. 3,467.
Oh, well, I guess everybody in this room's memory is better than me. And I watched that episode 4 times in a row, so. Moving on, talking about our example, we all know who our example is with everything in life. In point A there, someone is watching us. Again, we all know who's watching us. And we need to remember we're under observation at all times, you know. He's there watching, seeing what we're doing. He knows that Jim made the right decision, that our realtor was ready to make the wrong decision, right? And that's anyhow, partly there, practicing what we preach. Question number 5, describe the impact of Andy's decision to come clean about the condition of the house. What was he risking by coming clean?
He was risking not selling his house, and but I think more than that, he had more to gain because of the example of his son.
Integrity. The part where Opie looks up at him, right?
Right.
And if he made the wrong decision there, it could have had an impact on his kid for the rest of his life. Also, at the beginning when Opie's showing his bike, and Andy's saying this is wrong with it, this is wrong with it, Howie's the one that later on is selling the boat, that he's the one learning that lesson too, right? And it may have helped Andy in the end too, because Howie came clean about everything that was wrong with their house. Enough water down there to sail a boat. Here's a question. At first, Andy didn't want to practice what he preached, right?
Right.
You think if Opie had been around, would Andy have still done the same thing that second time around? Probably, because he's Andy Griffith, right? And last week, Kay was talking about Andy never lies. And we got to see here where Andy was really tempted to lie, but he made the right decision anyhow. And just like a parallel there would be, you know, when we're making our decisions, God's watching us. When Andy was making his decision, Opie was watching him to see how he would respond. Then we got learning from a child's perspective. There's a lot we can learn from kids. Andy would he have even realized that bikes are not or bikes are bikes and houses are houses? There's no difference between that if it wasn't for Opie? I don't think he would have. Opie's the one that really pointed that out to him, right?
Yeah, he was the one that pointed it out to him because I don't know what things that happen to us in our lives. We get hardened by some things, and we get into a mode of doing certain things that we wouldn't normally do if we would really consider them and think about them over a longer period of time rather than doing what other people have done. That's only a sign of maturity. That's a sign of growing, and prayerfully, we're all growing in a way that we're becoming much more and more content with what we have, rather than looking at what we don't have and wondering if we ever get it.
All right, question number 7, or 6. There's not 7 questions in there. Question number 6. In the end, what did Andy learn from the experience? What do you think Opie learned? What have you learned from times in your life when the fair dealing practice principle was not applied? So first of all, what do you think Andy learned from the whole thing?
That's best to be honest.
Best to be honest? Maybe, and remember, the house he wanted was as great as he thought it was.
Right.
He learned a little bit about that too.
Everybody's got their own problems.
Everybody's got their own problems.
Every home has its problems.
Well, yeah, some more than others, right?
Not everybody's honest, you know?
Not everybody's honest.
Not everything's perfect.
Howie's dad, was Howie's dad gonna tell him everything that was wrong with their house? He wasn't, was he? If it hadn't been for Howie, the whole deal might have been done and Barney might have been a happy man that night.
Yeah, that night.
But Howie learned a little something from Andy earlier in the episode too.
That's right.
So what about Opie? What did Opie learn? Jim said the word integrity.
He learned that houses are houses and bikes are bikes, you know. And you know, he learned that no matter what you do, you gotta be honest.
In the little things and in the big things, right?
Yeah, his dad reinforced that by coming through for him, because he looked up to his dad when his dad was about to explain. And he said, no, but you know, you're right. He says, kids do exaggerate, but not in this case. My son just said, what was the truth? He just told the truth.
Right, just tell the truth. Then last part of the question, what have you learned from times in your life when fair dealing principles were not applied? In the past, you learned anything? When somebody treated you badly? Raymond there learned what car salesman he's going to, right? He learned a little bit about trust and honesty.
Right?
You learned to take care of your money a little bit better, right? Dealing with contentment.
Learn to investigate, really.
No. Would their way of saying that be not trust everybody quite as equally? Investigate stuff before you get into it? Try out the radio and the air conditioning and the heater on the car before you buy it? Drive it around the block. One time I bought a car, we made about 20 miles down the road and the turbo went out on me and it died. So that was, I think that may have been the very first car. I bought a lot of used cars, so it was probably the first one I bought right there. So yeah, I've learned definitely to check everything on an automobile before I buy it. We learned to, we have that inspector look at the house before you buy it. Anybody got anything else? We'll talk about our final thought. Our final thought tonight comes from Opie, who said to me that kids should be honest and grown-ups don't have to be. Because that's what he was thinking the situation was, right? Because bikes are bikes and houses are houses. But thankfully, Andy came through for him in the end, showed some integrity, and let him know that grown-ups need to be honest too, even though a lot of times they aren't. The good ones are the ones that are. All right. You want to come up and make announcements?
Just a reminder about the men's breakfast and then the backpacks. So the men's breakfast will be 9 this Saturday, and we're going to be handing out the backpacks between 11 and 1.
Okay. Anybody got any prayer requests? Anything? We got Harper having her dental surgery tomorrow, early in the morning. She's having 3 or 4 crowns and some, 3 or 4 root canals and crowns and everything else. On the 12th? I've been doing that the whole time. At 10. Tuesday. So Jennifer, you'll be here on Sunday, but then we won't see you on Wednesday night for quite a while on Sunday. No.
Well, it could be fun.
Might sing a little louder.
Probably for you too, maybe.
Yes, Jim.
Transportation to
Can you say it again? I got the transportation to what?
isotopes.
To the isotopes?
So in the bulletin, if you read the bulletin, we're going to try and go to a baseball game, the Isotopes game. I think it's the 26th at 6 o'clock. We need to know, I put the price in the bulletin, I believe. And so we need to purchase the tickets 7 days ahead of time. So a week ahead of time, we need to purchase the tickets. And that way we get a group together so we can all sit together and we meet here in the building. We drive up there and we enjoy the game together and then we go home. This congregation's been doing that for years. And so keep that on your calendar if you'd like to go, just let me know. And you'll turn in the money meeting and we'll order the tickets and then we'll do that. Ayana Paul is not feeling well. She's feeling fatigued and sluggish. Doesn't know why. And it's been going on now since before last Sunday. So keep her in your prayers. Barbara and Cashland, there's some snow. They moved up to Colorado. She's got some folks in her family who are not feeling well in different states, her mom, her brother, and she started a new job and she doesn't know if she's going to be able to get time off to go see them or if she's going to have to quit her job to go. That's how serious the illnesses are. And so keep her and the family in your prayers too.
Okay. Anybody got anything else going on? Anything we need to know about? How's the bulletin coming along? Not the bulletin, the director. Any news on that?
Yeah, it's just about done. She had some questions, and so we talked today, and we're just about finished. Keep in your prayers all of our teachers and students that are going back to school. We want to make sure we keep them in our prayers.
All right, Jay. It's your turn this week. Can you lead our prayer and close us out?
Father, thank you for having us come together tonight. Father, just help us to be better Christians. Help us to be one that everybody will want to be like. Father, just let us all short. Father, I just pray that each of us will have great rest of the week. Father, just be for one that is good. Father, just be for one that is not good. Father, just help us to stay healthy. And to, Father, just help us to always be willing to help others.
Oh, are you getting ready to apologize, Pam?